Hello Year 8. So for this project, we're going to start looking at food and sweets and food wrappings and drinks cartons and various other bits and pieces like that, and try and develop your observational drawing. What we're going to do is we're going to start with some timed continuous line drawings, and that's what we're going to do in this video here. Now, continuous line drawing is really, really important because it teaches you some of the really basic fundamentals of drawing, the most important of which is that the thing that you should look at the most when you're doing a drawing is the thing you're drawing. You don't look at your paper, you don't look over to the side of the room, you look at your object. And actually the amount of time that your eyes spend on the paper should be pretty minimal. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a series of objects over a single page of our book, and we want to fill the page, and you're going to complete this task in one lesson, okay? We're going to do it through a series of timed tasks, and I'm going to time myself on my watch. They'll range from longer periods of perhaps 5 minutes to really short ones that could be anything as little as 30 seconds. And what we want you to have at the end of this is that understanding of looking at your object and learning how to record it onto your paper, and to feel confident looking at the object more than you look at your paper. The first thing that you should do is select the thing that you want to draw. So you'll have a couple of different objects in front of you, and you'll choose one of them, and you just want to give yourself a general feel. Now, the first thing that I recognise is that it's a nice sweet wrapper, it's tied tightly at the ends, it's got some writing on the surface. In a timed study, it's unlikely I'm going to have time to get that writing in there, so I'm going to focus on the shape, I'm going to focus on some of these nice crease lines and some of the texture that is generated and the tone that's generated in those crease lines. So the first thing that you do is you just put your sweet in front of you. Your teacher's going to tell you how long you've got. I'm going to start this on a minute. So, you know, it's not a huge amount of time. You're going to be doing this task using a fine line pen. It's not a pencil. Yes, you are going to make some mistakes. No, you're not going to be able to rub it out. And that's one of the things that I kind of want you to get your head around, because it's actually okay. The mistakes are the most important part of learning in this. You'll do your first drawing, you'll look back at it, you'll see where you've made the mistakes, where you haven't got the shape quite right, where you haven't got the twists in proportion to the rest of the sweet. And then next time you do it, you'll be able to improve on that and get it looking much better. So if we start with this one here, I'm just going to put it in front of me. I'm going to start my drawing just up here. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to move my book over to the right-hand side of the table. This avoids me twisting it. As soon as I twist my book, it becomes really difficult to draw what I'm drawing, because my hand is working at an angle and my brain is working at an angle, but my sweet is straight and so is the edge of my table. So it becomes really difficult to try to work out how to put it on. So you've got to try and keep your book straight, and what you're drawing should be sitting in front of you. Okay, so there's my sweet, here's my timer, off we go. Okay, that's my minute up. So I've set out my first sweet, I'm relatively happy with it. Now I can look at it and I can see and start to evaluate how well I've recorded this. I can see straight away that I've got the proportions of this side slightly wrong. It's too wide in comparison to where the top of the sweet is. This one on this side is probably a little bit too long. This part of the sweet here could have been much higher. Really important learning points for me for when I do it or when I draw my next sweet. What I'm actually going to do this time is I'm going to switch my object. I'm going to turn my book around, and this is important. You want to fill your page so that all of your drawings are multi-directional. So I've moved my book round, I've got my can, I'm going to just give this a bit more of a squeeze so I've got some lovely textures happening in here. I've decided the place of my book where I'm going to start, and this time I'm going to give myself slightly more time, so I'm going to go for 3 minutes. Okay, so that's my 3 minutes done on my can, okay? So I'm quite happy with that for an initial recording. I probably wouldn't be happy with it if it was a sustained drawing, but for me to start to get a feel for how these objects look and how to start observing the different lines, tones, creases, I think I've got quite a lot from that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just keep going, and I'm going to be switching my objects and trying out different ones. And then what I want you to do, I'm going to just play the rest of this video on high speed. And then what I want you to do is just have a look, watch how I'm mapping it all out, watch how I'm drawing these. Think about the fact that I do overlap some of my imagery, which I think is important, but you don't want to overlap it too much. You also want to try and avoid spilling coffee on it if you can. Obviously, this is my morning coffee cup that still had something in it. So yeah, watch the rest of the video, get a feel for how I do it, and then it will be your chance next lesson. Okay, so you can see there that I've done quite a range. So we've obviously got my crumpled can, we've got my coffee cup that I've been looking at from the base up. And when we do that, we get this thing called foreshortening, which makes the length of the object look much shorter. It's quite a difficult angle to work from. This was my first one, and you can see this one here, which was my longest study, I was able to dedicate much more time to, and I elected to put in some of this lettering. This lettering is not perfect. These crease lines, these are not perfect, but I am learning about the shape, I'm learning about proportion, and I'm starting to understand how the crease lines form in this kind of quite sort of foily wrapper that these sweets are in. And I've filled my page completely. I've got, I don't have any big gaps, and I've got a really nice range of drawings. The most important thing that I want you guys to see is that these are not perfect. These are not perfect drawings, and nor are they meant to be. This is an exercise in loosening you up, in encouraging you to look at an object, and that's what we're concerned with. Now, I've taught continuous line drawing before to start a project, and invariably what I see is a massive improvement from this first page of continuous line drawings that you do through to the sustained drawing that you will be doing in 3 or 4 lessons time. So it's a really valuable exercise. It does help you, it does encourage you to get better. I've thrown you in at the deep end using a fine liner because they're thick, they're harder to control, especially with this detailed work. But I think that you can rise to the challenge. So this is what we're doing next lesson. I look forward to seeing you all then.